You ever want to punch a wall? I just recorded this whole video without my mic on, so I was in that mood. But I think I got the mic on now. I think everything should be good. And today I have the top 5 bust potential players going in the top 50 of NHL fantasy drafts this year for you. Before I get into that, though, I need to shout out my man Ben H. He designed my banner work and my logo. I really appreciate that. He charged a little bit. It wasn't a lot, though, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. And I think if you want artwork done for your own reasons, you should definitely hit up my man Ben on Twitter. I have the link in the description. If you like my channel, consider hitting the subscribe button. Plenty of fantasy hockey coverage for you to go back and watch. I've made 12-ish videos in the last 14 days on fantasy hockey, so plenty of stuff for you guys to look at. Also, a lot of stuff coming, so please consider subscribing. Let's get into my first bust. So I need to get a little closer to the mic here, though. Adjusting it. Sorry if that made a little bit of noise. Gabriel Landeskog is my first guy, and Gabriel Landeskog has been a good fantasy player when he plays in McKinnon and Rantanen, but it looks like they're going away from that now, and that really drops Landeskog's value. Landeskog already wasn't on the first power play unit. Now he's going to be missing out on 5-on-5 time with two of the better players in the league in Rantanen and McKinnon, and I think this drops his stock drastically. I could honestly see a world where Gabriel Landeskog finishes outside the top 100, and I don't think that's a big stretch considering that he himself is not the most dynamic offensive player. He's going to be playing Kadri and Saad, who are decent in their own right, but I'm not sure Landeskog necessarily will be a top 100 player. I think he's probably in that 80 to 100 range, but to get him this year, you have to pick him at 36, and as I mentioned, no power play time, hasn't been practicing to start the year because of COVID. They haven't said specifically why, so you can assume COVID in those cases. 44 points in 54 games last year. Not enough to the point I was going to include his ranking to make him look bad because, he's playing 15 games less than a lot of other people. But if he's not with McKinnon and Rantanen, I can't justify picking him in the top 50, and I don't think I would even draft him in the top 75. Once we get outside of 75, maybe a little more consideration, but there's just better options below him. So I'm going to say Gabriel Landeskog, without McKinnon and Rantanen, bust. Svechnikov. Now, this is a low-tier bust, and what I mean by that is he's going to be a top 40 player. He just isn't going to be as high as some people think. He's going 15th overall off the board on average, and I want to direct you to the right here to look at Sarah Sivian's tweet. She covers the Carolina Hurricanes as her career, as her profession, as a journalist for The Athletic, and she does a great job. If you're interested in the Hurricanes, definitely check out her work. And she's been reporting the lines, and it looks as if Rod Brindamore is going with Svechnikov on the second line with Vincent Trocheck and Jesper Foss. It's being reported that they want to have more balanced scoring, and they're tired of being a one-line team. So what's the solution? Move your stars around to get all the lines going. It can work out for you. It doesn't work out all the time, but it can work out for you. And there is a chance that it doesn't work out and Svechnikov ends up with Aho. But there is a chance this does work and Svechnikov's away from Aho the whole year. And at that rate, I don't think he's worth the risk. I do think he takes a step forward as a player because he's going to be 1 year older. But that step forward, I think, gets diminished by the fact he's not on your top line with Aho and Teravainen. Also, he will be on Power Play 1, which is a saving grace here to the point he should be a top 30 player. I just think a low-tier top 30 player. I expect Svechnikov to probably be around 25 to 40. And I don't think that's disrespectful considering he's only 20 years old and he's never been above a point per game. I think that's pretty accurate for what he should be if he's not with Aho. And players above him and under him that I like more than him is Elias Pettersson on that loaded first line in Vancouver with JT Miller and Brock Besser. Hopefully Besser can stay healthy finally. Zibanejad led the league in goals per game last year. Very up-and-coming New York Rangers team. Not sure they have the D-core to put it together this year, but offensively they have a lot going for them. Lafreniere should be interesting to watch. Mitch Marner, one of the best playmakers in the league, playing with one of the best goal scorers in the league, and Austin Matthews. Braden Point, who was above a point per game last year, he just needs to stay healthy, and he should finish in the top 20. Brad Marchand was top 10 last year. He should start the season on time. And Jonathan Huberdeau, who's basically, you can guarantee, top 25 player. Patrice Bergeron's the next guy on the list. Patrice Bergeron is a little bit older now, 35 years old. He's the 32nd forward off the board this year, 41.8 ADP. Last year ranked 42nd, and I don't see a world where Patrice Bergeron does better than he did last year for the pure fact he's 35 and he's without his star right wing for a month. Patrice Bergeron is not Brad Marchand. He does not create for himself. He creates by, linking up with the players around him. And now he has one less superstar. Whereas Marchand, I feel like, can create for himself, get some solo goals and all that, create something out of nothing for the players around him. Bergeron doesn't do that. Bergeron's sound defensively and gets in the right position to link up with players. I think the peak you can expect Bergeron to be is about 50 this year, and I think more realistically, he's probably finishing closer to 75. I think that's fairly, respectful for me to say, just based on his talent and his age, that he should be probably in the 50 to 75 range. Whereas if you're picking him at 41.8, you probably want him in the 30 to 50 range, which I think is just a range too high for him. Guys under him I like more. David Pastrnak, who's, you draft and stash him. Mark Scheifele was above a point per game last year. He plays a whole year. Definitely going to be a top 30 player. Johnny Gaudreau has high upside. Brady Tkachuk looks like he's going to take the next step forward. That kid's built, and I really like him. Taylor Hall will probably get back to closer to what he was with the Devils in his MVP year than what he's been with the Coyotes, considering he's playing with Jack Eichel, probably the best player he's ever played with. And Victor Olofsson, who's got a shot on him. I like Olofsson as a sleeper. And Kyle Connor was a top 20 player last year, and I think he's got top 30 floor for Kyle Connor. All players under Bergeron who you should definitely reach on and take over Bergeron. We then go into Ovechkin. Now, if you're in one of those leagues that counts shots for an absurd amount of points, maybe don't listen to me, but if you're in a league that does it the right way, in my opinion, and has goals and assists way beyond the value of shots, blocks, and all that stuff, Ovechkin's not for you. He's not for me in my league, at least. Finished 12th last year despite scoring 48 goals because he doesn't get assists. And, he doesn't do much besides score and hit. 18th in points in the league last year, 67 and 68. Can we expect him to put up the same goal rate as last year even? 48 in about 68 games, I think it was. That's insane. That's like mid-50s level for a guy in his mid-30s. I expect that rate to drop a bit. No disrespect to Ovechkin, but that's an absurd rate for anyone to have. And I don't think he's going to keep that up this year. Prove me wrong. I'm not a big fan of the Capitals' top 6 this year. I think their first line's fine with Kuzi, Wilson, and Ovi. I just think Ovi's just not going to score at the same rate as he did last year, which is why I don't think he's going to be a top 5 player. And I think if he finishes anywhere outside the top 10, he's kind of a bust for you if you get him at 5. And I think there's a high chance he finishes outside the top 10. Players going under him, I'd rather have as Matthews and Eichel, who go right behind him, which they should go right before him. And then Ovechkin would be way less of a bust, in my opinion. Then you get into the other guys who are probably about where he should be going. Or I think these guys should even be going above him, which is Aho, Crosby, Kane, Zibanejad, Marchand, and even a Braden Point I could see finishing above him, and I think I'd feel more confident because of the all-around game of Braden Point and Brad Marchand, who finished above Ovechkin in a lot of leagues last year because Marchand also pots 35 a year. That being said, no disrespect to Ovechkin. It's just father time I think is going to take him down a notch this year. Plus, I don't really like what the Capitals got going on in their top 6. We then get into the one that I struggled the most because I had to find 5 guys in the top 50. It's kind of a force, but one guy I don't trust, and that's the reason he's here, is Max Pacioretty. Now, Pacioretty, yes, was amazing last year. 67 points in 71 games at the age of 31. But I think he peaked, to be honest. I'm just keeping it real with you. He ranked 19th last year, and now he's getting a young center in Cody Glass, who young centers typically bring inconsistency unless their name is Connor McDavid or people in that tier. Not sure Cody Glass is there. He should be good, but I'm not sure he's going to be instant like that. Playing a full season is a concern for Max Pacioretty, too. I mean, last year was the first year he played a full season since 2016-2017. Previous 2 years, he had 37 points in 64 games for Montreal, and then he had 40 points in 66 games for Vegas the year before that, his really good year. So, are you going to see the Pacioretty from last year, who was amazing, or are you going to see the Pacioretty that, for the majority of his prime, was pretty meh and couldn't stay healthy? I just don't trust him here. That's the big thing. This one I feel like is the most likely I'm wrong on, which might be absurd considering I had Ovechkin in here. But Pacioretty is definitely a boomer bust candidate, which I tend to stay away from the guys with heavy question marks with health concerns in a brutal sport like hockey with a condensed schedule. I think there's just better options under him too, like Mark Stone, Alexander Barkov, JT Miller. Don't sleep on JT Miller. He was top 30 last year. Pasta, draft and stash, already mentioned. Scheifele, already mentioned. Gaudreau and Tkachuk, already mentioned as well. I also like more than Max Pacioretty because this little block in the early 30s of ADP is if I had to pick there, I might go with a defenseman. I might go with a Cale Makar if he's available, or Quinn Hughes or someone like that, or a goalie even, just because I'm not a big fan of the forwards going around this area. A little draft tip there if you want to follow what I'm probably doing. Also, I'm going to do the outro now. Thank you for watching, as always. But I'm thinking of doing a online stream on YouTube of a fantasy draft. I do 3 leagues. One of the leagues I'm doing, I can't because I have friends who subscribe to this channel, and they would just, know all my plays. But I'm doing another league with randoms online that I do at cash leagues, and I could definitely stream that and do a live draft with you guys, talk fantasy hockey, while you see me under the draft stress, which draft stress is like something else because, you have all these thoughts going into the draft, and then you might just like mess up badly. I do that occasionally, but I'm usually pretty good to the point I get a pretty good team at the end of it, in my opinion. But I think that would be fun to do. If you'd be interested in that, leave a comment saying you would be. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching as always. Shout out to Victor Hanasek. He lets people use his photographs as stuff for YouTube, blogs, and stuff like that. He has a lot of great photos, and this is one of them. His link will be down below with Ben's as well, who's a graphic designer I mentioned earlier. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.